By virtue of the powers vested in me as Chancellor, I constitute this gathering a congregation of the University of South Africa.
Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to join us in solemn prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements being celebrated on this occasion. Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Chancellor, good evening to you. We just want to acknowledge your presence at this graduation ceremony. Our Chancellor is a former or retired Judge President of the North and South Gauteng High Courts, but he also continues to serve as a judge, in this particular instance, the Judge of Social and Human Rights that is based in Arusha, the Republic of Tanzania. We always appreciate his presence at graduation ceremonies because we know that it is highly valuable for our graduates to have an opportunity of receiving their degrees directly from him as our Chancellor. Representing management of the university, besides I as Principal and Vice Chancellor, we have Dr. Mashia Sotikwa, the Vice Principal Operations and Facilities, Professor Gordon Zide, the Registrar, and Mr. Usipuka, the Acting Dean of Students. Representing our regional facilities is Professor Pat Mafora. Then representing our college this evening, it's Dr. Brita Zawada, the Deputy Executive Dean of the College of Human Sciences. I want to welcome the spouses and partners of all our office bearers who are with us here tonight. Let me welcome members of the academic staff procession, and also to mention the name of Dr. C. Sawa, who has a doctoral candidate tonight, Mr. Gerald Rochier for DTH. And I also want to welcome members of our administrative staff, starting with the colleagues from the Graduations Division, the Corporate Communications and Marketing, and Obrilo, colleagues from Institutional Advancement, and also from University Estates. I also want to welcome in our midst Dr. Eve Vermeeren, the organist. It is also important to welcome in particular those of us who are graduating tonight, the graduandi and our diplomandi who are present. And I also want to mention quickly that Professor Danny C will be presenting the Chancellor's address. Is from also the College of Human Sciences. I just want to welcome our special graduate for tonight. That is the Honorable Mr. Julius Malema, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters as a Commander-in-Chief, but also a member of our Parliament. He is tonight receiving his Bachelor of Arts degree in Human and Social Studies in the area of specialization, political leadership and citizenship. It's also important for me to welcome the guests of Honorable Malema who are with us here tonight, starting with his beloved wife, Mrs. Mandwa Malema, his grandmother, Mrs. Sarah Malema, then his mother-in-law, Me Deboho Matlala, his aunt, Ms. Malema, another aunt, Ms. Selina Mashakuli, and the cousin, Mr. Tsepo Malema, and the second cousin, Mr. Roni Malema. From the Economic Freedom Fighters, we have Advocate Darling Bofu, national chairperson of the EFF, Honorable Floyd Shibambu, who is the deputy president of the EFF and also member of parliament, Honorable Godfrey Gardi, who is the Secretary General of the EFF and also the member of parliament. We have Ms. Magdalene Munsami, who is also the EFF Treasurer General. And then we have Honorable Bengi Washope, who is the Deputy Secretary of the EFF and Member of Parliament. We have Honorable Hussein Ndlozi, who is the National Spokesperson of the EFF and Member of Parliament. We also have to welcome Mr. Godfrey Makiko, who is Mr. Malema's PA. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a real pleasure to welcome you all to this very special occasion, your graduation. I can assure you that it is a special event for UNISA, as it is for you, our graduates, and also our loved ones. At a recent graduation ceremony, our Chancellor, Judge Bernard Webber, shared a little about the history of the university, explaining that under the church, the university is the oldest institution in the world, having endured and flourished for nearly 1,000 years. Along with that history, we have inherited age-old traditions, some of which are Western in orientation, but the majority of which have evolved to capture and reflect the cultures and traditions of the various countries. In all cultures, there is some rite of passage for acknowledging the knowledge that has been mastered by the student during the course of his or her studies. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we'll undoubtedly experience this evening, UNISA's graduation ceremonies have a joyful and colorful character, which speaks directly to our conscious decision to reflect our African culture and ethos. Loud exclamations of pride and pleasure, joyous ululations, and even the odd tune on a mouth organ feature in UNISA's graduations across the country and our continent. It seems that UNISA's students of all hues and their families are intent on making the most of this really special occasion in all of our lives. However, in as much as we encourage your celebration, we insist on being heard, and neither whistles nor vuvuzelas, since 2010 by the way, will be allowed to block out the sound of any student's name being read to our audience as they make their way across the stage. I ask that you respect that and exercise the necessary decorum. Every single student deserves to enjoy this moment to the full. Above all, graduations are a very formal and solemn acknowledgement by one's peers of knowledge that has been acquired and mastered successfully by the student. When students kneel on the bench to be capped, they do so as students. When students rise after being capped, they do so as graduates who join their peers as this country's intelligentsia and UNISA's alumni. It is a moment of honoring and acknowledging, and let's not forget, very solid achievement. As academics, some of whom are seated on the stage, we too have cause for joy and celebration. We live for the moment that our students become confident and proud graduates. It is what makes it all worthwhile, because it means that our academics have also succeeded in their tasks, and so you will appreciate why graduations mean so much to so many people. This year marks the University of South Africa's 143rd year of existence. And as we celebrate this magnificent achievement in South African and African education history, we cannot but appreciate afresh that this is an institution whose character has been informed and shaped by the many decades that have marked its transition from an examining body when it was established in 1873 at its genesis to the largest open distance learning university on the continent, by the people who have led UNISA, the staff who have worked for UNISA, and by the countless thousands of graduates who are to be found in every conceivable profession in every country in the world. one finds the full spectrum of society represented in the legions of our graduates. Their commitment and diligence have enabled them to go on and do extraordinary things with their lives. Many of our graduates have played key roles in shaping our country and its history, now more than ever before. In fact, the roll of honor amongst our graduates reads like the who's who of international and national politics, business, and industry, and many of our most illustrious professionals. In fact, it is our honor tonight to introduce formally Honorable Mr. Julius Malema, Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters, who has successfully completed his degree amidst his busy schedule. We know that he's been a diligent student who even found time to consult personally with his lecturers. He is a good example and inspiration to many students who are currently toiling with the hope that completing their studies is within reach. UNISA has made a massive contribution to the growth and development of this country and the continent over the past 143 years. And this contribution has been shaped by the individual and collective contributions of people of every hue and persuasion, and from all walks of life, in a manner and to an extent that is truly remarkable. So you have every reason to be proud as UNISA graduates. UNISA graduates, education empowers our providing a context that is only achieved through study. As you apply the knowledge that you've gained, I have no doubt that you'll begin to realize that there is so much more to learn. They say that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and that if you are feeling a bit unwell and you were to type your symptoms into the University of Google, you will probably find that you have about 500 potentially fatal illnesses affecting your every organ in your body. That is why at UNISA we encourage the practice of lifelong learning, using your intellect to its full potential, of being discerning and appropriately informed so that you are able to develop fully as an individual, as a scholar, and as a productive and responsible member of society. UNISA's vision, that is to be the African university shaping futures in the service of humanity, is opposite this time. As you join the ranks of UNISA alumni and as you plan your futures, I would like to ask that you take time to reflect on the contribution that you can make and will make, not only to your own growth and development and welfare of your families, but also to the growth and development of our beloved people, our country and our continent, towards the bright future that we all desire. Well done on staying the course. This evening you will reap the rewards. I know that I speak here for the entire university and all of the people gathered here this evening when I say, on behalf of the University Council, its Senate, executive and extended management, I extend my congratulations and the very best wishes to all of you, our graduates, for fruitful and prosperous futures. So thank you very much. But as I go back, sit down, just to remind our graduates that those who are receiving degrees will be expected then to kneel as soon as they reach the Chancellor. And soon thereafter, I'll be congratulating them on the work well done, which will then be followed by going to the registrar who will be taking the hoops. We are requesting that as and when you do so, please keep your eyes open. We have had a situation in some occasions where our own graduates have disowned their photos because when they were taken, they had their eyes closed. So we are pleading with you, please open your eyes so that we can save when we do that. But secondly, that you must remember that this is your day, it's your graduation. You know that you've worked for your degree and your diploma. So when your name has been presented, it is incumbent upon you to walk on this stage boldly. You did not borrow the degree or you did not buy it. You have earned your qualification. So as a university, we are all proud of you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this graduation ceremony. Thank you so much. Chancellor, I'll now be requesting Professor Dani to proceed to present the Chancellor's address.
Mr. Chancellor, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you must have heard the story about the three stonemasons, each one toiling hard on carving rocks for a building. When asked what they are doing, the first mason explained that he is earning a living. The second was priding himself in being the best stone cutter around. And the third mason was enthusiastically hammering away, and when asked what he's doing, he answered, "I'm building a cathedral." I would like to link this to something that actually happened. In 1997, a huge financial crisis rocked Asia. One of the Asian nations, South Korea, was a nation that recovered the quickest from that crisis. In addition to strict adjustments and restructuring of the economy, the reason why they could repay IMF loans long before they were due, and so created a competitive advantage in the region, was because ordinary Koreans, citizens, voluntarily donated billions of US dollars worth of their personal gold jewelry to contribute to emergency rescue funds. When called to assist in solving a national crisis, the Korean people were ready to make personal sacrifices. In both these events, the concept of purpose is for me the key to uncover the underlying motives. And I would like to treat this by firstly linking purpose and spirituality, discussing purpose in context, and then lastly by looking at living with purpose. The link between purpose and spirituality. The Oxford Dictionary defines purpose as a noun, as the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. It may also depict a person's sense of resolve or determination. And there's actually a philosophy linked to the idea of purpose, namely teleology, which is based on the Greek word for end or purpose. It sees purpose in ends rather than stated causes, making the outcome the actual or the final cause. When you see things in terms of teleology, you explain actions by their results. And the philosophy itself suggests that acts are done with a foregone purpose in mind. People do things knowing the results that they wish to achieve. To do as a first mason does, that is only to work to earn a living, it can be seen as a purpose, albeit not necessarily a very good one. Because if your purpose is only to earn money, you will never earn enough. Therefore, purpose alone is not enough to explain the third Mason's motive or the Koreans' response to a national crisis. It needs to be linked to a secular, non-religious spiritual component, which I would call teleo-spirituality, or spirituality for a purpose. Throughout the course of history, until the dawn of modernity, spirit and spirituality, and this again in a non-religious sense, were an integrated part of society and openly confessed and promoted. Spirituality was linked to the inspiration behind human activities such as science, art, and religion, and more importantly, spirit and spirituality were associated with care. Care for the self, fellow human beings, and for the world itself. With the arrival of modernity, accompanied by rationalism and linear thinking, spirituality was largely eroded and forgotten in society. The consequences of this erosion were disastrous. It caused a decline of the principle of care and led to exploitation of fellow human beings and nature on a global scale. Moreover, or however, in our postmodern world, people are increasingly asking the old question again. Why am I here? More and more people are asking for meaning and what they are doing. Kellerman Peltonen claims that there is a growing disillusionment with materialistic ways of life and consumption. And research has shown that people increasingly want to be meaningfully engaged with the world and others and want to purposefully make a difference and have an impact, also in the workplace. And if we put purpose in context, we look at teleo-spirituality, which functions on different levels. On intrapersonal level, interpersonally in smaller and larger communities and society as a whole. The first questions people should ask are related to making sense of their own existence. The urge for meaning then goes beyond the personal interest and soon develops into an urge to make a positive difference to others. Lickerman set the following conditions for purposes in order to bring new energy to your activities. Firstly, they need to benefit you and others simultaneously. They should preferably involve the removal of suffering and the bringing of joy to others as well as yourself. And they are optimized when they require you to engage in an area you find intrinsically interesting and have mastery over. And he concludes, the meaning we as meaning-seeking creatures find most sustaining invariably comes from the value we create for others, as well as ourselves. Even knowing a smile we gave a stranger make him feel good can add significantly to our own happiness. In the literature, there's a common understanding that purposeful spirituality always has to do with others, and it's about care for others and care for the world. It aims at creating a more caring environment and making the world a better place. I believe this is aligned with African perspectives on community. The Ubuntu principles, for example, subscribe to similar values, that an individual cannot exist for himself but is human because he's part of a community and that everyone has to contribute to the good of that community. In the workplace, the accommodation of people's needs to do something that is worth doing gives meaning to people's everyday tasks. It allows them to take ownership of what they are doing and experience, and they see their work as an opportunity to make a difference and to contribute to a better world. People then have a sense of purpose in their work, which will impact on their perception of their world of work and the organization they serve. And as employees, this is also what's expected of you. And then we say, what is it living with purpose? And now I'm going to become more blunt. You have graduated tonight. As an undergraduate or postgraduate student, you have accumulated knowledge and skills that empowers you. To do what? What is your purpose? To earn a living or to build a cathedral? To simply survive in a hostile world? And everyone in this hall tonight can help to make the world a better place, regardless of where you are. I would like to share a story to show how one needs to look around you for opportunities to make a difference. Roald Dahl, the author of the children's books Matilda, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and others, has an impressive CV with great accomplishments in various areas. I would like to highlight one issue which I believe is relevant for what you're doing today. And I would like to illustrate this by telling two little stories from his life. His son was involved in a car accident as a baby and as a result sustained serious head injuries, causing pressure on the brain, a life-threatening condition. Dahl didn't wait passively for doctors to deal with it, but instead, along with an engineer friend, developed a mechanism which would relieve his son's intracranial pressure, saving not only his son's life, but also thousands of others with a similar condition. He invented a solution where none existed before. Dahl's oldest daughter died of measles-related complications, and as sad as it was for him, he immediately realized that it could have been prevented if she had been vaccinated. This motivated him to make sure that it doesn't happen to other parents by initiating a global campaign for the vaccination of measles, which also saved millions of lives. As graduates who had the privilege to study, and I'm also talking to the people on this stage who had opportunities, you have an even bigger responsibility to use that we should learn at UNISA to address the needs around us. The more you have, the bigger your responsibility to use it to the benefit of others. You should be able to recognize the needs that exist in your communities and be able to respond and contribute, like Roald Dahl did. You need to be active citizens in our communities and able to tackle the pressing problems we are faced with. Africa's problems such as poverty, education, health, violence, inequality, and others need our attention. It is up to you to make a difference. We need people with a purpose. We also need organizations and companies which ask this existential question, why are we here and what purpose do we serve? However, that's another topic that I'm currently addressing in a research project. But let's dream about a world where most people are inspired with a purposeful spirituality to make the world a better place. Teachers who are inspired to unlock the potential of every child in their class. Teachers who want to change the world by giving the best they have to a new generation. Employees who see their work as an opportunity to make a difference, who care for their colleagues, clients, and the world. To dream of a cashier at a retailer who senses that the world of every customer passing his or her till can be made better by serving them with a smile and by acknowledging their humanness and their needs. The job not simply a means of earning a living, but the context in which they can change the world. Being a neighbor who helps people around you to create an environment of care. Being a community member who applies what was learned to clean up the community of drugs, crime, and the impact of poverty. Ultimately, we need people who can see themselves building cathedrals and citizens who are prepared to make personal sacrifices in a common interest. The literature and many real-life examples indicate that if you live a spiritually purposeful life, caring for others and our world, you will not only be much happier and enjoy better psychological health, but you will also change the world for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Duplessis, for sharing this Chancellor's address with us tonight. We know that it is addressed specifically to those of us who are graduating tonight. So I would like to say it is actually something that we are not going to be questioning you about at this time around, because you've completed your exams, you qualify, to be here. But the challenge that we put on your laps is to say we would be keen to know, few months down the line or years down the line, whether you can still remember the content of the Chancellor's address that was shared with you. Because it is meant to assist you as you grapple with the issues that are confronting you in all walks of life. Because the understanding is that keeping that at the back of your mind will actually help you to be a little bit wiser when you tackle those particular issues that confront you. So I'd like to extend our gratitude to Professor Duplessis on behalf of the Chancellor and all of us who are with us, with you here at this graduation ceremony. Mr. Chancellor, it is now my pleasure to request you to confer the degrees and diplomas of the university on the candidates whose names appear in the program.
I shall now proceed to confer the degrees and diplomas of the university on the candidates whose names appear in the program.
Chancellor, our colleagues from the college will now be presenting the candidates to you. Mr. Chancellor, my request to you now is to congratulate the graduates on receiving their degrees and diplomas.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Makanya, Vice Chancellor and Principal, and members of the academic staff, distinguished guests who found time to come and celebrate this occasion with us this evening. We appreciate your presence, but we should also, I guess, thank you for obviously the support that you must have given to the people who obtained their degrees and diplomas tonight. We know that without your support in one way or another, we would not have been here this evening. Indeed, some of you might have even made some financial contributions towards their studies. And therefore, this evening also belongs to you all as well. For those who are graduating with us tonight for the first time, you are most welcome as our newest set of alumni. We hope that you will continue to enjoy this wonderful academic relationship with this great institution. The principal has singularly acknowledged the presence and achievement of Mr. Malema, who is the leader of the EFF. It was correct to do so, because indeed, had it been the leader of any other party, we would have done exactly the same, because we are simply too great an institution not to be impartial in our dealing. This is a center of learning where we are more interested in intellectual and academic achievements than anything else, irrespective of the church to which you belong or you don't belong, to the political party to which you belong or you don't belong, and so on. But there's also an underlying message in that acknowledgement, as he put it. Never too busy to learn. And that surely must apply to everyone else. Speaking of which, by the way, after somebody heard about Mr. Malema's forthcoming graduation, that person said to me, you know, I've noticed that many of the people in the leadership of the EFF are highly educated and are engaged in further postgraduate study. I sincerely hope that that is also the case with regard to other political parties. Because, ladies and gentlemen, and here is the point this evening that I want to raise with you. The world today needs leaders who are knowledgeable in whatever way they deem it appropriate. But it is absolutely important that, given the complexities of the globalization of the world, its economy and everything else, we need to have people who take trouble to make themselves knowledgeable when people, without being asked, and when they do so on their own, decide to take positions of leadership to lead millions and millions of people. But coming back home, it is even more imperative that we produce people like your good self to my left, people who command great intellectual capacity and questioning mind, because we are in this country at a critical stage where we are busy trying to build a new nation. A new nation which could never be achieved unless we have people who are properly equipped and they command deep intellect and some questioning mind. We need that because many of us thought that immediately after the 27th of April 1994, South Africa would be paradise. It isn't. What with corruption? What with its half-brother nepotism? What with poverty that is still bedeviling our people? The experiment is still in progress, and for it to yield the results that were anticipated some 20 years ago, we need people who will not just be docile, but who will ask questions when the time arises, and who will hold our leaders to account for the things that they promised our nation many years ago, and so on and so forth. And we are still far from that. It cannot be correct that we allow ourselves to be deviled with corruption in this country. Speaking of which, I was told sometimes back that indeed, in some of the government departments, after posts have been advertised and thousands have applied, the shortlisting takes 5 minutes because people go there with their list prepared in advance of those who should be shortlisted. They only go there to look for specific CVs, and that is the end of the shortlist. How can it be correct that at times, despite our strained effort, we find it difficult to understand whether it is a powerful union which is in charge of the education of our children or the government? How can it be right in this country, so many years since the 27th April of 1962, that we continue to have such a big divide between the rich and the poor? In fact, some people have said that we have the best constitution in the world. If that is so, how come that we are the worst nation when it comes to the divide between the rich and the poor? Something which is acknowledged by everybody. It simply means that we are not where we thought we would be, and indeed perhaps we haven't even begun to get there. So my questions to you, all of you to my left, is, with the qualifications that you have, as Professor Duplessis posed the question, what are you going to do? Are you going to act like true intellectuals and question and interrogate things, and have the intellectual courage as opposed to intellectual cowardice to ask questions when things do not go right? We as the University of South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm a witness to that, we have discharged our obligation and duties to prepare you for the world that is out there, so that you can play a meaningful role to the benefit of society. If you don't, it shall not be our fault. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor, for this congratulatory address. Mr. Chancellor, I now would like to invite each and every one of us who are gathered in this hall to stand up to sing the national anthem, the words of which are to be found on the last pages of your program. I would like to request all of us to remain standing after the singing of the national anthem to enable the Chancellor to dissolve the congregation. But we are also requested to remain standing while the academic procession leaves the hall. Shall we sing the national anthem? My final request to you is to dissolve the congregation.
By virtue of the trust entrusted to me, I dissolve this congregation of the University of South Africa.